All right, let's go ahead and get started. Thank you, everyone. Really great to have you here today. I will kick us off with some introductions. I'm Carly. I am the Water Program Director at the Minnesota Center for Environmental Advocacy, and I am joined today by Joy Anderson, who is one of our supervising attorneys at MCEA, as well as Akila Sanders-Reed, who is a program associate with both our water programs and our climate programs at MCEA. So thank you to all of you who took time out of your day to be with us. I am going to go ahead and start a brief PowerPoint presentation to kick us off. Okay, do we all see a PowerPoint slide? Okay, good. I want to just start us off with a brief overview of why we're here today. So we have a really big opportunity here in Minnesota right now to shape the state's revision of the feedlot rules. This has not happened in 25 years. So it's a big opportunity that will likely shape the next 25 years of animal agriculture in the state of Minnesota. So today we will give a high-level overview of this comment period and why it matters. We have two key goals for today. The first goal is to send the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency powerful comments that clearly demonstrate the need to update the state's feedlot rules so that Minnesota's water is better protected, in particular from nutrient and bacteria pollution. And our second goal is to demystify the state's public comment process so that we all feel empowered to effectively advocate for the issues that we care about. Your voice matters, and we will talk through how to make sure your comment is effective with the regulatory agencies. So right now, the feedlot rule comment is open, but we anticipate that many other comment periods for potential rule revisions will open up in the year ahead. A couple of examples are rules to implement Amara's law with the PFAS non-essential use ban, rules to implement the cumulative impacts law, as well as a revision of the state rules for wetland protection. So the skills that we talk about today will be useful beyond the feedlot rules for many other issues. So with that, I will pass it to my colleague Joy to get us started.
Yes, so first of all, let's talk a little bit about what is a rule. We're talking here today about the animal feedlot rule and how you can comment on it, but it's important to understand, first of all, what that is, right? So a rule is a law that's passed by an administrative agency. In this case, it's the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency. They are the ones with authority over water pollution. So what a rule is the legislature thinks, gosh, we should probably have some really specific rules or laws about this subject matter area, but we as the legislature don't really know exactly what they should be. Maybe we don't know what the specifications for the liner of a liquid manure storage pit should be, right? And so they give authority to an agency that has technical expertise in that area to pass rules. And there's a really specific rulemaking procedure that they have to go through before an agency can adopt a rule. But then once they do, that is the law. And really importantly for our purposes, during that rulemaking process, you all have the opportunity to comment, which is an opportunity to just interact with the agency and tell the agency what you want, because it's supposed to be a public process. Next slide. Oh, who's got the PowerPoint? There we go. Okay. I just know that I don't. So let's talk about the rulemaking process. It is not a short process. MPCA has already said that they expect this one to take a couple of years. And there's nothing in the rule process that says it must take 2 years. That's just what MPCA has indicated they think this one is going to take. So right now we are in that very first box. MPCA has said, we want to look at changes to the feedlot rules. And so we are asking the public for comments. We are asking the public to say, if you're changing rules about feedlots, this is what we as the public would like to see. And it's wide open right now. You can really, anything within the scope of the feedlot rule, anything that's within MPCA's authority, you can ask for right now. Once they've gotten all that public comment, once they've reviewed all that, they will go away and draft a rule and what's called a SONAR, a statement of need and reasonableness, because a rule has to be both needed, there has to be a purpose for it, some kind of problem it's addressing, and it has to be reasonable. It has to be a reasonable way of addressing that problem. So that's the next thing. And MPCA has said that that's going to take probably about till 2027. After that, there will be a second comment period where they want to have feedback on the specific language that they have proposed. And then there's a hearing in front of an administrative law judge. The administrative law judge writes a report and either approves or disapproves the rule. If it's approved, the agency can then adopt it. If it's disapproved, there's various things that can happen. Maybe the agency will make changes, or maybe there won't be a rule at all. So I think it's really important to emphasize that even though the agency has started this process, there is no guarantee right now that we will come out of here with new rules or that we will come out of here with what we consider to be better rules. So we need to push MPCA hard at this point in time to make sure that they make the kind of rule that we want to see. And now it's back to Carly. Oh, you're muted, Carly.
Okay, I think I'm good. All right, so I'm just going to give us a brief overview of what does fall under the scope of the feedlot rule. It is Minnesota Rules Chapter 7020. If you like to read administrative rules in your spare time like we do, that's how you can find it. As I mentioned at the start, the last major revision was 25 years ago in 2000. And the rule applies to all feedlots in the state. There are approximately 23,000, and they range from small-scale farms to commercial-scale livestock operations. An animal feedlot in Minnesota is defined as a facility where animals are raised in confinement, like shown in this image, where manure can accumulate, and where the concentration of animals is such that vegetative cover cannot be maintained within the enclosure. So I think the most relevant takeaway here is the definition of an animal feedlot does not include pasture. And what the rule does is it sets the baseline for what's possible in feedlot permits, as well as standards for construction and operation, for example, of liquid manure storage pits, and standards for manure storage and application. And some of you on the call may be familiar with the general feedlot permit, which was just revised in January of 2025. And what I want to stress here is that the rule is different from the permit. The water pollution permits apply to the largest feedlots in the state. That's about 1,200 of the 23,000 in Minnesota. And those permits they do expire and they are renewed every 5 to 10 years, unlike the rule, which establishes minimum requirements for all feedlots that do not expire. So the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency has opened a public comment period for general feedback on what they should potentially revise in the state feedlot rule. And what they have cited, they've cited a variety of changes in animal agriculture since 2000 as one of the reasons to review the rule for revision. Those include changes in technology, changes in feedlot practices like consolidation and more liquid manure, changes in our awareness of the environmental impacts, our awareness of nitrate contamination, the causes of fish kills, E. coli contamination. So these are some of the changes that they cite in their own request for comments as one of the reasons they might need to revise this rule. So as I said, there is a link that I think we will be able to share in the chat to the agency's specific request for comments. It is on their website, and it outlines pretty specifically the kinds of feedback that they're most interested in. We've included just a couple of the topics that they outline here on this slide. And then I do want to give you, MCEA will submit, we plan to write a pretty lengthy technical comment for this comment period with a variety of recommendations. I don't want to get into all of the weeds of that today, but what I do want to highlight for you are our top 3 recommendations. And I think to give you context for those recommendations, I wanted to show you this map, which was produced by the Environmental Working Group. And let's just outline the vision, the overall vision of what we want to get to first. Why do we want to engage in the feedlot rules? Why does this matter? For us at MCEA, the vision is clean, drinkable groundwater, both for public water systems, cities and towns, and for private well users, and no more fish kills, especially in some of the areas of the state where we have some of our prized cold water trout streams, like the karst in southeastern Minnesota and the Central Sands, which also happen to be the areas where groundwater is the most vulnerable in the state of Minnesota. And those are shown in purple on this map. So what is the current problem that we can get at through the feedlot rule? The problem that we see is the over application of nutrients like nitrogen above crop needs from 2 sources, animal manure and commercial fertilizer. The black border on this map here indicates counties where both manure and fertilizer inputs exceed crop needs by more than 40%. And they clearly overlap with those vulnerable groundwater areas that I mentioned, where the aquifers that we draw our water from are more easily contaminated by activity at the surface. Another one of the current problems is manure that is applied at high-risk times of the year, like in the fall when the ground is bare, so there are no crops to take up the nutrients, and in the winter when the ground is frozen or covered by snow, which means that the manure will not be incorporated into the soil where it will be useful for crops. It will merely run off into streams and rivers. So we have 3 top recommendations that I want to just give you some context for today. The first is to require more feedlots in Minnesota to get water pollution permits. So one of the primary tools that we have under the feedlot rules for pollution prevention is water pollution permits, which require you to do 3 key things. They require you to make a plan for how you will apply your manure to not exceed your crop needs. They require you to make sure that you have adequate storage so that you don't have to apply manure at those high-risk times of the year. And they require you to follow certain best management practices to minimize runoff to surface waters and to groundwater. So we think that the state should lower the current permit threshold from 1,000 animal units, and I'll tell you what an animal unit is in a moment, to 600 animal units. What would be the impact on the ground of that change? Well, right now, an animal unit is basically the amount of manure that is produced by a 1,000-pound steer or a male beef cattle. And at that 1,000 animal unit threshold, that means that about 4% of the feedlots in Minnesota are permitted. And if we were to lower that to 600 animal units, that would cover another 10% of feedlots in the state and an additional 25% of the nearly 50 tons of animal manure that are generated by livestock in Minnesota every year. So it would really extend the impact of those 3 very common sense requirements under a water pollution permit to cover a much broader swath of some of the drivers of the problem. Our second main recommendation is to require large feedlots to monitor discharges to both groundwater and to drain tile. So for almost every other industry, when you have a pollution permit, you have to monitor your discharge to make sure you comply with the permit. But this is not so for feedlots, which are assumed to be in compliance if they create a manure management plan. We know that enforcement visits to feedlots are rare, once every 10 years in many cases. So we need actual data to enforce our permits and our rules. So we think that Minnesota should, at a minimum, require large feedlots to monitor their discharges to groundwater and to drain tile below crop fields. And then finally, our third recommendation is stricter land application requirements and lower application rates in vulnerable groundwater areas. So soils and geology vary across Minnesota. And in the most vulnerable parts of the state, like that karst region and the central sands, we think there should be stricter requirements for the land application of manure at high-risk times of year. So that includes, you need to have established cover crops or diversified crops in your rotation if you apply manure in the fall. And you need to restrict or eliminate the application of liquid manure onto frozen or snow-covered ground in the winter. And I think I'll leave it at that for now. We're going to have some time for questions if you have more questions for me about these recommendations, but I'll pass it back to Joy for some feedback on how to write an effective comment.
Yes, so what should you do in order to write an effective comment? One of the main things that's really important for your comment is to keep to the topic identified. Here, that's changes that can be made to the feedlot rule, and the feedlot rule is intended to cover and control discharges of pollutants from feedlots. So if you have other kinds of issues with feedlots, if you want to say, I think people should generally eat less meat, or I think that feedlots, there should be more controls on their workers or things like that. Like those are not within the scope of the rule. You also, I have reviewed comments for other rules, and sometimes you get things just like, I hate Governor Walls. And if you feel that in your heart, that's something that you can feel in your heart, but it's not very useful to say something like that in a comment. So I would keep to the topic that's identified. One of the first things that you can do is explain your connection to the issue. You can say, I have a well that's contaminated, or I live in a town where we had to dig a new well for our public water system, and that cost me more money. Or I know people who this affects, or, I live in a rural area and I know someone who got cancer and I'm concerned that it's from the water. Explaining how you're connected to the issue does help the agency understand that this is important to people and why it's important to people. And then it's important to identify the action that you want from the agency. Even something just as simple as saying, there have not been strict enough regulations on feedlots. Feedlots are causing water pollution. The agency acknowledges that the feedlots are causing water pollution. People are unable to drink their water because of this. And so I want the agency to pass stricter rules that will address the nitrate contamination crisis in Minnesota. Like it can be that simple. Our comment is going to be many, many pages long and go in a lot of detail into really specific changes that we would like to see. But number one, just I want stricter limits. That's helpful. But then number two, some of the things that Carly just said on her slide, that we want more protections in the vulnerable groundwater areas, the places where we know that pollutants spread on the surface go right into the groundwater, right? Like pretty quickly. It's really important to have stricter limitations there. It's important to have more feedlots get these water pollution permits. The water pollution permits require more oversight, they require more planning, they require more reporting back to MPCA. If more feedlots have those, that will be helpful. And then to have groundwater and surface water monitoring. If you're making pollution, if the pollution could be escaping, you should have to figure that out, right? Like you shouldn't be able to just spread the manure on the ground and walk away. At a minimum, you should have to like walk around your field afterward, right? And make sure that it's not washing right off into the ditch. So those are if you want to say some specific things, those are three specific things you can say. There are a lot of other actions that potentially you might want to address. The request for comments does list multiple other things that the agency is asking for specific feedback about. Excuse me one second. And so there are a lot of other things that you can say, but those are three things that we have identified that we think would be helpful for people to say to MPCA. That's my last bullet point is any reasons or research or examples that you have about why changes to the rule are needed. Again, there's two things that the agency has to show when they are talking about changes to a rule. They have to show that the rule that they're suggesting is needed, that there's a problem, and they have to show that what they're doing is a reasonable way of responding to it. So anything that you can do to provide MPCA with information about the scope of the problem, saying this is why it's a problem, this is what I see, this is how I am affected, this is a real problem and there is a need. And it's not reasonable to expect people to deal with this on their own. This is not something that people can just, this isn't something that the people whose drinking water is undrinkable. It's not something that they've caused. It's not something that they should have to deal with on their own. The state can deal with this. So that's what I would say about how to write your comment that we're going to write in a few minutes. Next slide. So this is your opportunity. You can tell MPCA what you want. And I refrained from putting in parentheses what you really, really want for all of those of you who were Spice Girls fans back in whenever that was. The comment deadline is July 22nd, so you have until then to put your comment in. We are going to walk you through how to do that today, and so we hope that there will be more comments on the website imminently. You can submit your comment to the Office of Administrative Hearings, which is what we will walk you through right now. You can also submit your comment to a mailing address that I believe we can put into chat. That's going to happen. Okay. And importantly, I just want to say that like no particular format is needed. You don't need to, there's not a form, you don't have to have like a formal report. It can just be a paragraph. It can just look like an email. It can look like a letter. Whatever you want your comment to look like is perfectly fine as long as you get the information to MPCA. That's what's really critical here. And now I'm turning it over to Akila, I believe.
All right. Thanks, everybody. My name's Akila. I use she, her pronouns. And as Carly said, I'm a program associate here at MCEA. I am not a lawyer and I am not a feedlot expert, but personal comments, even if they aren't technical, as Carly and Joy were saying, are a really important part of this process, and I'm excited to work on those together. Before we do that, I want to pause here for just a minute in case there are questions about what Carly and Joy shared that you feel like you need an answer to before writing your comment. So if you have a question to inform the comment that you're about to write, go ahead and drop it in the chat or in the Q&A that's at the bottom of your screen, and we'll take just a couple minutes to answer any urgent burning questions that you have.
So I
Let's see.
looked into the Q&A here, and I do see a question around the cost. Are there costs for water permits? There are some costs for an application, to open an application for a permit. When we're at the scale of 600 to 1,000 animal units, these are definitely commercial scale livestock operations. The highest cost you'll see for a permit application is a couple of $100s. So these are not prohibitive costs, but yes, there are some administrative costs associated with permit applications.
Thanks, Carly. I see a question in here as well about the health issues related to feedlots and the increased nitrogen and cancer and neurological effects, which I know drives a lot of us here at MCEA as to why this feedlot rule comment period feels so important. So I know we touched on that earlier, but I'm wondering, Carly or Joy, if you could just give a couple minutes to remind folks why this manure and the nitrate that's in it going into the water is such a scary thing.
Yeah, it's really important to keep talking about that. The 10 milligrams per liter limit that we talk about is the drinking water limit that was set. It's both a federal and a state drinking water level. They say below that or above that, they say is unsafe for your health. And that was set back in 1962 in order to address blue baby syndrome, which is something that particularly affects infants and pregnant people. It means that you don't get enough oxygen and then the baby turns blue, which is, very, very bad. It can cause severe injuries and potentially death. But more recent research has really found a link between a lot of different health problems and nitrate exposure in drinking water, even at levels below that 10 milligrams per liter limit. If you get elevated levels of nitrate really above 3 milligrams per liter, which is the level that people have said, that the agencies have said indicates that you probably have a human source of pollution. If you go above that level, there are a lot of studies that link it to a lot of different cancers, especially bladder and colon cancer, I believe. There's a lot of thyroid problems, and then there's a lot of birth defects and pregnancy problems that drinking that water is linked to. EPA, the last administration's EPA did start talking about potentially looking into lowering that drinking water standard. I think that we can expect that that probably will not go forward under this administration. But there's a lot of research showing a lot of really scary increases in health risks based on nitrate pollution.
And I'll just jump in quickly and add to what Joy said, and this gets at one of the other questions that's in the chat right now, which is that another health issue is bacterial contamination, in particular E. coli and fecal coliform contamination. And MPCA has recognized this in their request for comments. They say that, a lot of the watersheds in the state that are impaired for E. coli or fecal coliform bacteria are watersheds where there is a lot of feedlots adjacent to or near some of these impaired watercourses. So that is a topic that MPCA has specifically asked for feedback on. And we do know that, when you ingest E. coli or fecal coliform, that can lead to some pretty serious gastrointestinal distress. We also know that high levels of nitrate have an acute toxic effect on aquatic life. And with the increase in the fish kill events that we've seen over the past 5 to 10 years in the karst region in particular. So that's another, so to Leanne's question in the chat about elevated E. coli, there is some recognition of the link between livestock access to streams and E. coli impairments in water bodies in Minnesota.
I also see a question here about is a letter better than an email? And it really doesn't matter. It's whatever format you prefer. MPCA has to look at all of them. So whatever you send, they gotta read it.
Great. I'm going to wrap us up on Q&A there, although I see a couple of questions and comments in the chat that look like they are about to turn into excellent comments to the MPCA. I'm seeing some about where manure storage is located and saying that it needs to be located near where that manure originated and not near people's homes, and about that the MPCA shouldn't be able to justify any permit where the rules don't prevent, or it shouldn't be able to justify any rules that don't prevent water quality violations. So I want to encourage folks to take a look at the Q&A, because I think folks should be able to see that and take some of that as inspiration for the comments that we're about to send to MPCA. And I'm going to move us into some time for us to write those. So what we're going to do now is take about 10 minutes. So from now until around 12:40, give or take a minute or two, or 40 minutes past the hour in whatever time zone you're in. We're going to put on some music and we're going to give you time to write your comment right now. I encourage you to type it because when we come back together, I'll walk us through how to submit your comments online and we can all do that together. But as Joy said, if pen and paper is your jam, you can also snail mail it in and I'll put the address in the chat once we're done so that you're able to do that. So really, whichever one you're going to be able to finish, whichever one feels like you will be able to complete getting that comment sent in. I know for myself, I'm a perfectionist. And so I want to write the absolute best comment ever. I want to really think about, whether I want to put it on some nice paper or type it up. And that's going to lead to me waking up in a panic on July 23rd and realizing my comment is still sitting, in my drafts and never made it into the agency by the deadline. So I want to encourage all of us to let go of our perfectionist tendencies and focus on getting a comment into the agency that says the basic things that we want to make sure the agency knows. So for now, feel free to turn off your cameras while you write. We're going to put that slide with MCEA's main points back on the screen. And then I'll drop a little bit longer version of that into the chat, a link to a write-up that we have, as well as the tips that Joy shared about writing a powerful public comment. If you have questions as you're writing, again, feel free to put those in the Q&A and we'll try to respond in writing directly to you there. We'll be here to answer them. And good luck with writing your comment. Thank you for being here. I'm excited that we're doing a comment writing party together, that we can all work on it together and be accountable together in that way. So with that, I am going to be quiet and we'll come back again in about 10 minutes. We'll turn on some music and good luck writing. Just as a heads up, we're going to come back in about another 2 minutes. All right, thanks everybody. Come on back. Take a minute to wrap up your final thought here, and then we'll get started on submitting comments. All right, we're going to come back together. If you haven't quite finished your comment, that's okay. Work on getting your final thought down. If you have finished, thank you and welcome back. And here at MCEA, we use the law and science to protect Minnesota's natural environment and people, and we employ lawyers and advocates, but we do not employ DJs. So thanks for embracing quiet time to write rather than having music. We had some technical difficulties on our end. As Carly mentioned, we do have some more comment periods coming up, and we expect to host more of these. So tune in next time to see if we've got our musical jams sorted out. In the meantime, I'm going to share my screen and walk us through the steps to submit our comments online. Because the agency has made it a little bit burdensome, you have to create an account and go through a couple of steps, but I have faith in everyone here to be able to submit a comment online today before the top of the hour. So the first step is I'm going to put a link in the chat to the page where we'll be submitting comments so that you can follow along and do this on your computer. When you get to that page, it should look like this. It should say Minnesota Office of Administrative Hearings up at the top. And what you're going to do is scroll down. Oh, let me double check. Make sure that I'm seeing the same thing that you are. Okay, it should look like this. It'll also say Minnesota Office of Administrative Hearings up at the top, has a little bit bigger text. What you're going to want to do is scroll down, way down, past the attachments, which shows you the MPCA's request for comments. And then if anyone has been at one of MCEA's events recently and sent in a postcard about the feedlot rules, you'll see those here in the attachment of public comments they've received by mail. You're going to keep scrolling down to where it says View Topic in the bottom right. You're going to click on View Topic, and it'll take you to a page that looks pretty similar. In the middle of this page that has discussion and then topic submit a comment, you'll see a blue box that says, before you respond to this topic, please sign in or sign up. If this page doesn't look super familiar to you, you probably need to sign up. click that blue box. And then you're going to need to enter your email, create a password, and put in your name. So I'm going to pause for a minute here to let folks do that. Don't forget to click the I'm not a robot if that has popped up for you as well. And once you've done that, it's going to send a verification to your email. So we're going to hang out here for a minute so that folks can put in your email address, come up with a spiffy password, enter your name, and hit sign up. And then go to your email, check your spam folder because my confirmation email definitely got stuck in my spam folder. And when you get that email, click on the link to verify it, which will take you back to one of the Office of Administrative Hearing web pages.
I've lost my connection to you somehow. I was writing my letter and then when you came back, I don't have a full screen. I really just have a picture of you. I've been trying to take photos of this information you're putting up here. But if you have the ability to get me back in somehow, that would be great.
Am I a very small box on your screen? Just my face?
Yes, but I can't explain it.
I'll give you one tip, and then if it doesn't work, don't worry, we will send information out afterward.
Oh, okay.
My tip would be if you hover over that box, in the bottom right, there might be like two arrows kind of pointing it on a diagonal. And if you click that, if that pops up for you as you're kind of hovering over my face again in the bottom right, that might bring me back to being full screen for you.
The only thing in the bottom right is the leave. The
Oh
leave
no.
to leave the Zoom. It's my error, I'm sure. I was trying to do in writing my comments, I went to a I can't think of the name for it to create a page where I could type things. And somehow then I got disconnected to you. But I've still got that page. It's just that when it comes to submitting it, I'm not sure I have all that information. Because then I realized I wasn't getting back to you. I started scrambling, taking photos of what you were sending us, but I don't have everything. So if you're going to send some kind of follow-up, I'm sure that'll be fine.
We can definitely do that. And again, the link is in the chat. So if you go to that, you're just going
Oh,
to follow the steps that are laid out there. So we'll make sure we get everybody some information.
okay. It tells me my chat is disabled. So anyway, that's okay.
Okay.
You work with, well, wait a minute. No, it says chat. I don't know. It's my error. I'm quite sure. So I'll just wait for the things you're going to send when, when we're done. Thanks.
Thanks, no problem. And thanks everybody for bearing with Zoom. As you saw, we had some technical difficulties too, so it gets the best of all of us sometimes. Hopefully for other folks, you've managed to create an account and verify your email. And once you've verified your email, it probably took you back to the Office of Administrative Hearings homepage, like our comment page. So what I suggest is that you take that link in the chat. I'm going to drop it in again. You're going to take that and just copy it right back into your browser. That's the easiest thing to do to get you back to the comment page for this comment period specifically. So I'm going to do that here. Then we're going to do what we just did again. We're going to scroll down past that request for comment, past the beautiful postcards from our friends and supporters who are making their voices heard, and click on View Topic. Now, you're going to have to bear with me for a minute while I sign in because you're already signed in. So now, on this page, you should see your name in the upper right, and you're going to see these responses that other people have submitted. You're going to scroll down. I hope I'm not making anyone motion sick here. Scroll down, and you're going to see your name down here and a place where it says comment, which is exactly what we want to do. So you're going to take, if you typed up your comment, you're going to take that text, you're going to copy it, highlight it and copy it, and paste it into that box. If you end up coming back to this later and you've typed up a really beautiful Word document, if that's your thing, and you want to attach that, or you want to attach a report or other things that you found, there's a spot here that says Add Attachments, where you can choose a file that'll open up a window in your computer that shows your files, and you can attach the file just like you would on an email or anything else. You're welcome to do that. You don't have to add text to go with it. You can if you want. Say something like, I have attached my comment here, and I support stricter regulations on feedlots in Minnesota, or whatever summary you want to add, or you can just add the attachment and send it in. I just have a short comment here, so I copied mine into the text box, and then we just click post. I'm going to pause for a minute so that if you're in the middle of doing that, you can catch up. And I see a great comment in the chat. Thanks for putting this in, Amy, that the email, the confirmation email, in case you're still searching for that, comes from Minnesota OAH.Granicus Ideas. Very dramatic name for the platform that they're using to host this comment tool. So if you're still looking for your confirmation email, go ahead and look in the Q&A at the bottom of your screen, and that might help you out. In the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and click post here. And if you've got your comment lined up, I would love for you to do it as well so that we can get them all sent in and celebrate together. Ta-da! And then you should see your comment there. So I hope we'll see a few more of these coming in over the next few minutes. You can go through that same set of steps that we did earlier, taking that URL that's in the chat, going down to the bottom and clicking View Topic to look at this anytime. So feel free to come back if you want to show your friends that you submitted a comment, or if you want to read the comments that other people submit this afternoon. That's a way for you to have access to this. It's public. You can see the comments as they come in between now and July 22nd. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And I'm also going to put the address in case you want to snail mail your comments in the chat. Again, we'll follow up with this information afterward. I know it's a lot all at once, and everybody's internet works differently. Different hangups happen to different people. So if we didn't get you all the way to submitting a comment today, that is a-okay. I have full faith in you being able to send in your thoughts to the MPCA before July 22nd. Again, that's the deadline, July 22nd. Make sure, I think they have to be received by July 22nd, and you never want to cut that too close. So if you are snail mailing them, get to your beloved USPS postal service sooner rather than later. The address for mailing is in the chat. It's just OAH, attention William Moore at OAH. The address is 600 North Robert Street, P.O. Box 64620, St. Paul, Minnesota 55164. I'll say that one more time just in case the chat is giving you troubles and you know that you want to snail mail yours in. The first line, the name that you're going to send it to is OAH, attention, like ATTN, William Moore, MOORE, comma, OAH. The next line you're going to address your envelope to is the address 600 North Robert Street, P.O. Box 64620. And that is in St. Paul, Minnesota, zip code 55164. Thanks, everybody. I hope that at least seeing the steps to submit this made it a little bit less scary. I know when I pulled this website up originally, I was asking Joy and Carly, was I in the right place? Were these the right buttons? If you end up getting hung up on submitting your comment later, I'll drop my email in the chat, and you're welcome to reach out if you've got technical questions when you come back to this later on. With that, I'm going to hand it back over to Joy.
And I just wanted to say thank you so much, everyone, for coming to this today. I know it's an hour out of your day and it's not, everyone's funnest thing to watch a webinar, but this is so important. We have heard over and over again from the agencies that hearing public comments from people really makes a difference. And this is, as we've said, a really rare opportunity. We haven't had it for a long time to make a real difference in the way that the feedlot rules, what the feedlot rules say, and they cover all the feedlots. And so it's an opportunity to make really important changes that will affect nitrate pollution and bacterial pollution in our state's waters and protect people's drinking water. So thank you for your work on this. Thank you for taking the time, and look in your email for future opportunities to make more comments on this. There will be another comment period later on, as we said, once the MPCA has drafted the rule. And there will be other comment periods in the future on other topics that MCEA does advocacy on. So you will see communications from us on those. So thank you so much, everyone.
And I will just add my thanks. We are at a time when civic engagement is more important than ever. What we practiced today with this comment period will be relevant for future comment periods in Minnesota on topics from PFAS to wetland protection. So thank you for your time and for caring about these issues with us.